And for those of you able, either on chat or mute, just let me know what role you're in, just so I can see who's all in the class. And I'll just tell you, we're gonna move fast and furious, but the more interaction, the more fun. And I'm here to share how you, as a leader in the office, that's part of the recruiting team, be it team leader or ATL or PC or anyone involved, ALC or agent, that's really committed to growing your profit share or attracting talent to your team. This is for you. My goal is to help you in whatever capacity get better results out of your efforts. So if it's you as the team leader or ATL, this is for you. If you're just an agent wanting to build your downline, this is for you. If you're on a team and your job is to find talent, this is for you. And Rich Rector and I've taught this class over and over again. So I'm using our PowerPoint from the last time that we've been on, that we've offered this. And yet getting to know who I'm in front of does help. So again, if you're capable of putting your role in the chat, that's just helpful to know. And I'm going to send you all this recording and everything I show you in an email afterwards. So if you want to share this with anyone on your team, this is for you. This could be a recording in the future if you are building a team of recruiters to kind of share best practices. And again, if you ever want to get a hold of me, there's my contact info. So feel free to reach out to myself if you have any questions. Now, I did this. I'm not someone sharing what's working. I actually lived this role as a team leader, like I said, just under 18 years, hit 20 gross or more month over month over month over month. And I didn't burn out. I loved it. I was having fun. And so I want you to have the same kind of results, but yet not kill yourself doing it. And the only way I could do that was by building a great team around me. Now, in this picture, you'll see Damari Rios and Margaret Jackson. I also had Lou Tutko and Scott Hood on my recruiting team. My recruiting team really didn't vary from those 4 people over 7 years. And over time, I shifted from taking all the appointments to really just picking the appointments I had to take and giving the rest away. And that was impossible to do if I didn't believe in them. So for those of you that want to do that, a couple things. This is a bench that you can build with anyone you want. There's no rules to this. Margaret and Damari were both active realtors. They became leadership later, but started on my recruiting team. Lou and Scott never got into the leadership, but they were awesome. And all 4 of them really were about 80% of my gross recruiting for several years in a row. And I never compensated them. Their compensation was that I included them, I recognized them, and they had quite a few people name them, and that they've all built really healthy downlines. Now, to share with you the opportunity, 90% or more, maybe 95% if I had to guesstimate, of the people I've sponsored over the years are new. Okay, anyone else relate? Majority new? Okay, not to brag, but I made 581,000 in profit share so far. So guess how many people I have in my first line? I just looked. 22. That's it. So I'm going to tell you, Mo Anderson taught us, like, I don't know why my hand is raised. Sorry, guys. Mo Anderson taught us early on, like, seriously, get the 15 in the front line, and over time it takes care of itself. That's a true deal. And so, you know, if you're in this situation right now because you want to build that, or you're given the opportunity to be on the recruiting team, or you're in leadership, take advantage of the opportunity you have, because I know by tapping these people on the shoulder that I changed their world, not only because they naturally liked to grow as leaders, but they've all really greatly benefited years later, even with the profit share. So I did it, I kind of stumbled into this, and this group here helped me perfect it so that we could hit gross 20 without it being on me. Now, I was gonna probably bring in 5 to 8 of the rest, but the team, that were not leadership, brought in the rest of them. Any questions on that? The hardest part was letting go, let it go, because I was jumping back in over and over when my gross would drop down or my conversion would drop down. And I want to give you guys some advice on that if you do that, because I did that. I did that for like 6 months. And then the coach I had at the time brought this up to me. He's like, Jessica, how do you think it makes them feel when you take the job back? And I was like, oh my God, what a jerk was I, right? And I wasn't even thinking that way, guys. I was thinking, oh my gosh, I have to hit the gross number. I have to hit the numbers. So just remember, when you enroll people to help you, you have to empower them to instead of just taking it back. And so one of the things I had to learn was to slow down, to speed up with this group. And that meant maybe I had to do some more appointments with them to let it go. And that was all me. And so just if you get caught in that, just be aware that by doing that, you're kind of hurting their feelings. You're kind of saying, hey, I don't trust that you're capable. Let me take my job back. Right. So just be aware of, your position and leadership, because I didn't catch that myself. And it took my coach to put a mirror up and be like, whoa, whoa, whoa here. And that's the last thing I wanted to do. Now, once I let this go, I had to keep checking on it. So before we had the daily huddle, we just every Monday got together for like 20 minutes, you guys, just to go through pipeline, say, hey, how are we doing? Are we in a 911? Is it 15th protocol? And we just quickly met. It wasn't a daily huddle because these folks were volunteers. So I would do it over a Zoom, and let them be on their phones in their cars or doing whatever they had to do because they're volunteers again. Now, you may incorporate your leadership team or do this differently. I'm just sharing with what worked, and that you don't have to tap your leadership team on the shoulder to do this if you don't want to, because the truth is when you're grossing 20 plus consistently, your team has to onboard them. So food for thought, should everyone on your team be able to be like capable and comfortable and empowered to cover one of these meetings? Yeah, absolutely. That kind of goes without saying, but should it be part of their 20%? Probably not, if you can avoid it. So a little different logic I have there, and I don't know, if you feel differently, just do what feels right for you. And yet, if you really are strategic about this as a leader, you may want to recruit these people into your world in your downline, because this is also a wealth center. I mean, if I was really looking back and doing this all over again, think about that, what that could mean to all of you. None of these folks are in my downline. But, if I would have been more strategic, I could have done that. Now, Lou recruited someone from him for his downline to kind of cover his space when he stepped out of doing this, which was, I thought, pretty clever. So any questions on that? I would say about 50% of the time that these folks met with someone, they didn't really have a defined sponsor. And so they were, I wouldn't ever guarantee that, but I'd say if you called Margaret Jackson or Damari or Lou, they'd say about half the time they got named. So I'm going to dive into some real important strategies. First of all, I want to be clear on the opportunity. I kind of already shared that with you. Best practices to be able to leverage this out and also to get the results that you all desire. And then just real quickly, the appointment. So again, best time ever is right now, because we've got a lot of brokerages closing, folding, changing, morphing. And so you're going to have mass movement, and people go to big boxes. They're safe places to be. Small brokerages are kind of scary right now. And so just know you're going to expect a lot of movement. 80% of the agents around you are at one of those brokerages. So let them in the door, invite them into everything that you're doing. You've got so much to offer as an agent or anything. Just be like a concierge inviter. If you're going to go to anything, bring 5 friends with you and also a couple friends from the office. Engage everyone you care about to start participating and get engaged. And then last time we had to shift this extreme, 48% of the agents moved out of the industry altogether in a very short window. That's likely happening again. And the lawsuit kind of culminated on that. So there's a lot of chaos, but here's the good part. As soon as there's like one glimmer of hope, like rates drop again, or there's a bump in anything, or a drop in days on market or whatever, the media is going to take over, and we're going to have another wave of people coming into the biz. So this is also the time to really beef up your K score, KW prep, or new agent communication, because you're going to get a whole flood. And I'm going to tell you, it's a lot more fun bringing new energy into the business and teaching them how to do it properly in a skill-based market than trying to convince the gang you have that has been kind of not plugged in already to try to be skillful. So this is a fun energy shift for all of you if you grab onto it and are prepared. And a recruiting team is a great way to do that. So, oops, I'm going in the wrong direction. Sorry about that. So just expect that. And then just to give you perspective, 90% of the agents that are currently with KW came after the last shift. Does that kind of blow your mind? So that's how much movement is happening right now. And so grab onto it. So best practices, let's just say we're all a recruiting team. I'm the team leader. You're all the members. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to have a Google Calendar that just has these appointment slots tied and run by the front desk. That's the easiest way to do it because they're going to coordinate like where they're going to meet. And this front desk person can keep track of who shows, who doesn't, all of that from an office standpoint that you're going to need. And that's pretty critical. So I'm going to share that's a real basic thing to put in place so that for whatever reason, a front desk has to reschedule. There's someone in the office that's aware and in control. So front desk kind of has to own this system with you. Because someone's got to run it with multiple people, and team leader, ATL, you just don't have time ever to do it. Another strategy that we worked out, you triple book appointments. You never tell the people they're co-appointments, but the show rate is sometimes as low as 30% on these, especially non-licensed. So again, if you guys are all volunteers from the office that are going to cover appointments, you're going to be kind of irritated if you have 2 or 3 no-shows in a row. So this is just an important strategy to respect the agent that's giving up their time. I would at least double book. If you don't believe me, just run this play and you'll see that this becomes a rub. So if you triple book, often you still only have 1. And you can also do group sessions, which we recommend. And yet if you've got someone licensed and needing to decide, you guys know you want to pounce on that appointment one-on-one if you can. So just keep those things in mind that you want to triple book whenever possible, double book for sure. Don't feel like you have to have a 1-to-1 because you'll find out you'll have a none-to-1 too often. When someone is recruiting a licensed person, meaning they're capable of signing today, not that they're unlicensed yet. They have people that haven't tested, we're going to call them R0s, but like someone that could sign today, you should have an expectation of a 50% close rate or better. That's reasonable. So to be honest, if I'm going to give appointments to you, we got to make sure that we teach you how to close, that you feel good about closing, and that your close skills are higher than that. Now, Margaret and Damari were so competitive. They were over 80%. And we looked at it and tracked it because those two kicked everyone's butt. Lou's wasn't so good, so every now and then we had to work with Lou, and Lou just got kind of like, he would skip parts and stop doing things. So we're like, hey, Lou, what's going on? So finally Lou stepped out because he just didn't have the time for it, and then he like replaced himself with someone to take his spot because he was so into it. So have standards, and if someone's not available, then maybe they just need to take a break. That's cool. I had people kind of move on and off when they had stuff going on with health or their business or their family, or they got really busy. But I never had more than 2 or 3 people helping because it got out of control when I did that. So it doesn't have to be this big old machine. It could be, keep it small and tight, and then ask people just to give you a heads up if things are getting crazy in life or whatever, and they have to take a step out. I've had all of them step out, step back in, step out with whatever. And it's been great because I've had about 4 people on the bench. All of them, except Lou, are still recruiting for the office. Isn't that cool? And I've been out of the role for a couple of years now. And there are a couple new people Chaz Bradley has brought in because he's got his peeps too now. So it's kind of neat. And then here's the thing, if you're going to bother taking an appointment, be whatever role you're in, nurture them forever. Because although someone may not choose the office for whatever reason, if they don't get the experience that they were hoping for or expecting, they often make a move somewhere between the 3-week and the 3-month mark. So if you make a commitment to just stay in some sort of nurture cadence where you invite them to something at least every other week for a while, and then maybe at least once a month, you say, send them pass along something great the team leader sent out, or encourage them, or just do a care call. you would be surprised how many people will come back to you that you just can't even remember meeting with. So if you're going to bother taking appointments, yeah, the office is going to do follow-up. They're going to try to make sure they come. But if you want to be their sponsor or the sponsor they think about in 9 months when things don't work out like they thought on that team that they went to, or that brokerage makes a change they don't like, you're the first person they run to. So just set up some sort of smart plan that does some sort of interacting or reminds you to stay in relationship, or you miss the gift altogether, you know? And we can help you set something up if you don't know how to. So it's like the easy button, but it would be a real shame if you miss out on the benefit. And then if you're an agent and you're active, make sure you're utilizing your database to, like, once a quarter, put something out there like, hey, if you know anyone that's thinking about a career in real estate, I'd love to have a conversation with them. I'd love to connect them to a local office in their area. I'd love to connect them to a K-Score scholarship. Fill in the blank with what you'd want to say. Because again, you guys have a lot of influence, and you could be setting up a very simple smart plan with the same offer over and over again once a quarter that could be bringing you in a lot of opportunity to sponsor. And again, I think we just forget that we have these things, you know, that we can do, and they can be set it and forget it if you'd like. Any questions so far? Okay, I'm going to keep rolling, and if you do, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anyone. Now, if you don't have time, don't do this. If you already don't have enough time to do the things that you were supposed to be doing to move your business forward, this is not a volunteer role for you right now. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't reach out to your team leader and show interest, and so that you're on their radar. So when time is better, it works for you. And then you have to promise not to skip over the important elements of a great KW experience in that appointment if you're going to do this, or in all fairness, the office can't afford to give you the opportunity. It's like having buyer leads and you're not following up or calling them. You know, it's just the same thing. You know, it's just like someone giving their leads to you, that they have to entrust that you're going to make sure you hit the high points. And so your team leader, whatever they tell you, trumps anything I have said. And you really should get clarity on what kind of experience is important to your office, to articulate, or what makes you extra special in your office. But I'm going to share with you a couple of the major points today, so that you can close someone in one conversation, and have a high conversion for your efforts and for your office. Sound good? Good? Okay, we'll keep rolling. Now, the appointment. I'm going to tell you, these appointments can be as short as 30 minutes or up to an hour. But if you're going longer than that, you are not doing this right. It should not be more than that. And a group setting actually is better because you can have fun energy, but you have to control the room. You don't want anyone like to spend 15 minutes explaining who they are in their past. So I'll let that just be said. And yet I'm going to tell you the real simple truth of it. If you were to follow me through thousands of appointments, I built rapport very fast. I'm talking 2 to 3 minutes. There was a very different needs analysis for a new agent because they all need the same thing, but they just need to say the answers out loud. So it's not a needs analysis like an R2. It is a listing presentation. This is more of a listing presentation and a close and a show and tell, way more than a real recruiting appointment. A recruiting appointment with an experienced agent is a much different experience. It's a needs analysis. It's a lot more information gathering, and it's a lot less pitching, but you have one chance for about 30 minutes to get this new agent that has gone to real estate school, has been told they need to interview 7 or 8 offices before they make a decision, that they need leads to survive, and they're told many other untruths. And yet you've got to articulate the difference of KW versus all the other stuff they're seeing, which looks very similar. So we're going to dive into that today and how it's different. So there's a lot more education in your presentation if you want a high conversion. And we've got to make sure that we're not only saying how we're different, but we're giving them some evidential proof, like websites that they can go to, or pamphlets, or Ignite, like the Ignite manual example, things that they can see, because there's a lot of rhetoric and we don't look very different, but we are. So we got to make sure that we're bringing enough of that element in, and that ultimately that we end with the ask, even if they've said, you know, they're not in a position, I'm sorry, in a position to make a decision. So if we went real quickly, if we looked at it as a timeline, you've got rapport, needs analysis, the education piece, the KW difference, and the close. Now, rapport. This is something different that we did that transformed our conversion. We started with the power walk. Why? Because we made them feel at ease. By the time they got to the room where we're talking about business, we were joking around and having fun, and they got to experience the vibe of the office. They hit a few important parts around the office, from the training room with the calendars, so they could touch and feel and see the manuals and all the stuff, all the way to whatever else I was able to show them. Some days it was just the mortgage guy and the MCA, you know how that goes. Someday I had a full house and I could see him a lot, but we all started with the power walk. Now, Lou, who was so clever and fun, he was so fun on the power walk that he would sit him down as one of my agents and say, so, are you joining us today, or do I need to do the whole dog and pony show? And he would say that. Now, Lou also had lower conversion moving on because he skipped some of the important stuff. And yet that's how important the power walk is. Because at that point, if they're a little nervous, because they kind of think they're interviewing you guys, they think it's like a job interview. So they're kind of anxious most times. And again, if you can start with that, that usually gets them to a point where they're really feeling good. Now, the reason why that's important is if you close before doing a power walk on your way out, it's kind of hard for them to say yes to you if they haven't felt like they experienced it. So again, certain days of the week, you've got more of a vibe in the office. We tried to cramp appointments around that to max out the KW experience. We even during COVID did a digital power walk where we had the office jam packed one day, and we just went around and made it a video and off of someone's iPhone. Nothing special, like what's it like at your office? This is what it's like at ours, kind of thing. And for those people that didn't get the whole experience because of COVID or whatever, we gave them that. So just food for thought. It's just a different approach, but it like transformed our one appointment conversion because I think they just felt comfortable saying yes to us at that point. Now the needs analysis. We know new agents need certain things, but they've been told they need other things. Okay. You just got to know that. In real estate school, they're really pumped up with they need leads. You know, so a lot of them just think they need leads. So you've got to do a needs analysis with them and follow your team leader standard or whatever they want. Mine was, you know, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you even get here? And when you think about real estate, what are you excited about? What makes you a little nervous? And what's important about the brokerage you choose? What are you looking for? And so I just went from there. They ask for the same things: training, support, and leads. Now you'll get a random other thing every now and then, but just be prepared for those three things. So again, you don't have the time you would with an experienced agent to do a full needs analysis. So just go in knowing that's what they're thinking, even if they don't really share much. Now, I'm just curious, and whoever's willing to participate, great. What other things do you guys hear at these appointments if you've done them? Is it pretty much the same?
Culture was the only other one I could think of on there. Jessica.
Tina, then Mary. You said culture? Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Because they're gonna they won't want to be in a digital environment, that's for sure, right? So they want a vibe around them. What were you gonna add, Mary?
I was gonna say I hear the word mentor a lot, and it's and we have a coaching program, so it's reframing that okay, what does a mentor mean to you? Here's how what we do instead, or something like that. But mentor is such a buzzword.
Well, and I'm hearing a lot like, I want to go somewhere small so I can be under someone's wing, like it kind of like that. So that's one of the bigger objections I'm hearing. So that must be pumping out there like, oh, you want to be with someone that's going to directly mentor you. So something to be mindful of. Yeah, exactly. But, you know, and then you move right into the educate. So this is where things get probably a little different than what your current rhythm might be. So I'm going to dive into that and show that to you. But we actually, before we get into why you should join KW, we slow down and we take a stop, a pause, and a step back. And the reason is because they don't even know what we're about to talk to them about with splits and this and that. And our numbers don't look the same as others because of our CAP model. So I'm going to show you the lame Excel spreadsheet I have used. I'm almost embarrassed to show it for years. It's nothing special, but it just basically breaks down the economic model to profit, the 30, 30, 40. So if you're going to sell about 8 million in volume based off of the 30, 30, 40, you need to do 8 million in volume to do about 250,000 in GCI, which will equate to about 100,000 in profit. The reason why we do this is because nearly everyone that you interview says they'd like to make 6 figures in real estate, right? How many times have you guys heard that? I mean, zillions, right? I'd like to make 6 figures. I'd like to make over 100,000. So if you just make a general assumption, even if you're in a group setting, that everyone wants to make 100,000 and you educate them what that looks like, they will understand cap model. So I'm just going to pretend you're all in one recruiting appointment. I'll say, hey, I'm going to make a general assumption that you're all achievers and that you want to do really well and you're entrepreneurial and that you want to make 6 figures or more. And so I'm going to show you what that means. And before we jump into why you're going to join KW, I want to explain the transaction. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up even maybe to an example transaction if they really don't know anything about real estate. And yet you got to be careful not to break any rules or laws to do that. And so, keep that in mind. And yet you want to just do the math on how much do you get to keep as profit? You got to explain to them that they're small business owners. They're not HGTV stars. This is a real business, right? So a great way to do this without breaking any laws is just to bring out the 30, 30, 40 and run the math in front of them, you guys, if they want to do 100,000. I just made it an Excel spreadsheet. I can send this to them. They can play around with it. They can go home and show it to their significant other and explain what they need to do. And then what I do on the next tab is just switch gears to what our model versus a non-capping model. So this is 8 million in volume run with a non-capping brokerage versus Keller Williams as an individual agent. And then I also run it as a team member. You don't have to if you don't want to. I do because we have a lot of teams. But once you do this, they get capping. They get why, okay, if I'm going to survive and thrive in real estate and make that 6-figure mark, I got to do about 8 million in volume. Now that's my market. You do your own math and figure out what that is for you, but 8 million in volume-ish. And so if we run the numbers on 8 million in volume, this would be a brokerage with 6% franchise fee on an 80-20 with some fees. If they say, oh no, there's no fee at that brokerage, you can just go in live time and change this and show them they still are overpaying more than double what you would pay. And so a great close to that is, hey, Kelly, I know you were thinking about interviewing a whole bunch of other brokerages, but I think I kind of helped you eliminate most of them, right? Why would you ever start at a brokerage that you're ultimately going to outgrow? Why would you pay 3 times more? Right? And that's just the beginning for you. The next year, you're not going to be satisfied with that. You're probably going to want to go up. So what if you went to 12? Let's see what the impact of that is. And then again, in lifetime, I can show that. So what that does is kind of close down the non-capping model. But when they're looking at your offer versus these other things they've got in the mail that say 100% commission or 90-10, because that's what they're getting, right? They can connect the dots and be like, oh, wait, I could put that in here and figure that out. So again, this is a great way to get them to get it without feeling like you're pitching them. Because again, I'm just teaching how money flows, what they need to do in order to make the profit there as a WT or W-2 versus independent contractor, right? And what's cool about it is even if they don't join you, say they were already really obligated somewhere else and they have a friend at another brokerage, even if they don't even join you, they're like, wow, they teach a lot more over there than what I know. So let's just say Mary's my friend over at Remax. She's been a good friend of mine over the years. I'm going with her, no doubt. And yet I was nice enough to go interview with Lori because she sent me all this information and I know someone at her office too. I'm still probably going with Mary just because I'm probably somewhat obligated in a way, or, I already kind of made a promise. But if Lori stays in touch with me and she's only taught me this much, if I'm not getting somewhere with Mary quickly, where am I going to go? I'm going to go to Lori. That's the truth, because Lori took the time to explain more about the business part of it than I knew. And like anyone probably ever will. So again, remember, at other brokerages, they don't talk about any of this. So this is like news to them. Like, okay. And that's just a way to do it. Do it in your way. But if you take the time to slow down and educate the business side of things, you are in another category than everyone else. And again, often they don't join you right away. It's in that nurture follow-up, that 3 weeks, 3 months, you continue to invite them to things. If they're not getting where they need to be, they often move quickly. Sound good? Any questions on that? I would encourage you to make something prettier than what I have, but you will all get a copy of that beautiful Excel spreadsheet. And that's all you need. That's all it, just keep that in mind. It's not about perfection in my world at all. Okay, back to our talking points. Give me 1 sec here. You think I'd be better at screen share by now? Okay, here we go. So that's kind of the flow. Now this could be 30 minutes, this could be 45 minutes, but it should never be more than an hour. And we just kind of covered the educate. We're going to explain the real estate transaction, how commissions work without breaking any rules, the 30-30-40 profit model, and how we cap. And really that based on their basic goals, that they're going to hit our 100% if they do the work, and that they'd be insane to, go elsewhere. Will others go elsewhere? Absolutely. But now they know what they're looking at. Now you want to switch gears and talk about our difference. This is an opportunity for you guys to show. So I'm going to just kind of move ahead in my slides. I keep moving behind, sorry, moving ahead. And I want to share with you, this is your challenge. If you look at what they're all getting in the mail, because several of our team leaders have become licensed and they get all the letters in the mail, you have to remember that they're comparing numbers on a piece of paper with letterhead and a fancy flyer. And this one says 95 and yours says what? So you can't compete if you're just looking at that. They're looking at splits, fees, and leads. What you need to show is training, support, services, team opportunities, and their business, or putting the business in their business. I just kind of role modeled that by showing, like, you put the 30-30-40 in front of them. You put that graph that shows GCI to profit with what people usually spend. They don't get to see that anywhere else, you guys. That's putting the business in front of them. But in the very beginning, how do you show training? So think about that for a second. Like if you were to go on your own power walk, how could you maximize showing training if there wasn't a live class going? Would you stop at the training room? Would you stop where there's flyers? Would you stop at a trainer in the hallway? Would you stop at an agent and ask them about the training? What does that look like so they could experience it? What would you maybe show, give, or open up on your computer so they could kind of see your training versus some of the training they're getting from their friend Mary over at Remax that promised to mentor them? Because that's what you got to show. So think about that. Anyone have anything that they're really proud of that they show that really works for them? Anyone want to come off mute and share one thing they're doing?
We definitely show our training rooms. I think one of the other things, we always show command. We really want to show them what command is capable of, for sure.
Nice.
Things like that. I mean, anything that's going to help support their business, we're showing them, especially around training. And also, yep. The other thing I actually leverage a lot is the gosh, why can't I think of it? The Thrive website. That's another great website for new agents who don't know anything about KW. I usually will send them that link as well, because that is phenomenal. It shows a lot about our culture, training, everything we have.
I think thrive.kw.com is your recruiting presentation. I wouldn't hand out much besides maybe some individual results and accolades locally, because it's so sexy. And when they go home to confab with their family and their significant other, you could even have an email afterwards that kind of reiterates some of the thrive.kw.com, getcommand.com, because that's a great way for them to kind of show off what command does as well. I love that. Love that. Stephanie, I see your hands up.
I was just going to say, in our in our lobby, outside of our lobby, we have a huge board. And it was from KW Experience with our training calendar handwritten on there for the week. You can do it for the week or the month, but it's just, it always blows people away. And they're like, you've got that going on you got something happening every day. And it's very impressive. So if you have a place to show a calendar that's massive on like a whiteboard, it has an impact.
And I want you guys to know, just keep perspective here. 80% of the agents that you could recruit that are around you are in a brokerage with less than 4 people. They don't have the ability to do this stuff, you guys. So even if you only offer 1 training a week, that's like blowing their mind if they could see an Ignite manual, if they could see what you guys, if they could see KW Connect even. And so don't feel like you have to be a perfect office in your KW mind, because I know sometimes we listen to all the people kicking butt on certain ways and you're like, oh my God, I'm so not like there at all. And yet you are actually there. Even if you don't have anything dialed in, you are there because they don't have anything. And the MLS locally is really what they lean into. So keep that perspective. I'm sorry, I don't have your name. KWC ASM. We'd love to hear from you. What's your name?
Hi, my name's Majendi. And
Nice.
one of the things that our office in Keller Williams Central and Plantation that we do that I absolutely love is we have 2 training calendars. One is for more agents that's in production, and then the second calendar is for newly licensed agent. And we put Ignite classes, we put MLS classes in there for the newly licensed agent. So they have somewhere to focus compared to the agents that's in production where the language is just a little bit different. So I think I've noticed that our agents gravitate towards that, so they know exactly what they're looking at.
That's exactly it. We're an experience. We're different. There is no team leader at other brokerages. There's broker managers that take care of operations and contracts and transactions, but they don't help the agents grow their business. There's no productivity coaches. They may have mentor programs and things, but just remember, you have like so much to offer. So here's your homework. How are you going to show the experience of training, the support, the services, whatever it is that you offer, and opportunities? Like, how cool would it be just to have an opportunity board where people can post anything they want, stays up there for a week? Could be open house opportunity, all the way to, I'm looking for someone to do my transaction work or my bookkeeping or whatever, fill in the blank, someone to cover me for showings while I'm on vacation, whatever. That alone is cool if I'm at a brokerage with 2 other people, right? Okay, cool. So that's your homework, is really think about how are you going to show that, because, you know, that's important. Now, if we go back to the whole appointment, we still want to ask them what's important to them. It's not just a listing presentation. You do need to ask, but just know that the answers are pretty much fundamentally the same. And these questions you need to get through quickly so that you can finish this appointment in 30 to 45 minutes. So what brought you to real estate? You just need a blink on their past. You don't need a whole dissertation. Give me a few minutes on your history. Give me a blink on what you've done in the past. What brought you to real estate? You know, what do you want to accomplish? Like, is it someone that just wants to make a couple extra bucks and have freedom with their kid's schedule? Or is this someone that needs to make $1 million or needs to make $250 to survive? What is their situation? And then what do you need to be successful when you think of the brokerage? What are you excited? What are you fearful of? And what's important to you about the brokerage? Those questions are it. You know, you can add more to it, but you don't necessarily need to, because again, you need the time to educate. So if you look at the education category, educating about the market, having some broker metrics, things like that printed out, makes them feel really special and empowered. And most brokerages don't take the time to do that. They don't take the time to explain a transaction so that they can do the math to really understand the benefit of profit versus GCI, our economic capping model versus most models. And then ultimately the really unique differences about us, like how do you show our training? How do you show leads? How do you show technology? So going into command and showing them an example of an ad that was successful and sharing the playbook about a database is a great way to show them how to be empowered around leads. That would be a great show. So I don't know if anyone else has anything else to contribute, but that's a great one. And technology we talked about. Lori?
So question about the business profit versus GCI, because I understand the 30, 30, 40, but when we're talking about a newer agent or someone who's not doing a lot of transactions at this time, aren't their expenses going to be a lot lower than 30?
You can do it at 55%, and a lot of new agents do get 55% profit, but I like to be a skeptic and say you can be because you're not gonna have a lot of expenses, you're not paying a lot, you could do really well, like better than this. But I guess I've always just done the 30, 30, 40 as a skeptic, and err on the side of skepticism. But if you even just bring up the agent financials, materials that you guys have, every time you take a class, it becomes your brilliance shelf. You can take that out and show them, but you don't need to be that literal. This is a brand new person, and they still have to show up to work, right? You know that, right? So I would just keep it simple with 30, 30, 40, but you do you. If you want to get more detailed there, you can. And yet you're already showing them more than they've been exposed to, so don't overwhelm them.
Okay.
That's all I'd warn you to. Just don't overwhelm them. And again, you could just use the MREA book to show them this, but if you give out handouts like the 30, 30, 40, why not? Right now, some of you have that little recruiting book I made you that has all these models in one little book. Food for thought. You could use this little book or give this little book as part of this. Now, don't forget to close. That's the number one mistake we make, because we're like, duh, you should join us, right? So you've got to get your go-to close. Practice this with whoever you're going to develop your skills with. I would say things like, we don't hire all new agents, and yet you definitely have that it factor. I'd even go as far as to give you a sign-on bonus if things make sense for you with your family and you move forward with us, and assuming you pass the test. Like, I would even close someone that wasn't even licensed yet, like that hard, if I was excited about them, because you guys can tell who's really going to do well. And just know that some people really surprise you. So don't not close someone. Always close everyone and give everyone the opportunity to succeed in real estate. And the other close I had, because a lot of people say I have other interviews, say, after showing you kind of our economic model today, are there any brokerages that actually make sense for you financially any longer other than Keller Williams? And then they'd say, well, this guy, because of this. Say, great. Now, one of the things you had said is training and support are pretty critical, maybe potentially leads. Do you see how we can do that for you at Keller Williams? Yes. So based off of my knowledge of that company, they don't provide that. So is there any reason today that you wouldn't verbally commit to us, assuming you feel good about that? I'm going to close that hard. So those are the closes I used. I just closed it. I know you said you wanted to interview other brokerages, but after what we've covered today, do you see any reason that that's necessary? Sometimes it's easier not to go on those interviews and have to say no to those people. And if I really needed to bust out the gloves, I'd bring them up on broker metrics and show us versus the Goliath versus this little brokerage they were thinking of potentially going to say, how do you feel about that? And is there anyone in that brokerage even doing 8 million or more in volume? Let's check it out. So I know that's pretty aggressive closing, but I was an aggressive closer. So that's what I did. You got to come up with your close. And yet if you don't close, you're not going to get a good result from all the effort you're putting out there as a recruiting team member or a member. And whoever is giving you these opportunities needs you to convert, obviously. So something to think about is, how are you doing? If you're not doing well with closing, come up with what that is for you and have your way of saying it. I'm very aggressive. If you're not like me, you're gonna be like, I would never say that. And that's okay. But what will you say? And practice that with someone so that it feels like a normal flow. Any thoughts on that? Anyone have a close they like that they're willing to share that's not so aggressive?
I just usually say, do you like blue or black ink?
I like that. That's a way of
There you go. Which one you want?
I dig it. Anyone else have one they like? Well, just make sure you have one. I mean, so often I realized if I would have recorded myself, like, I never asked them to join, it's like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing. Ask them to join. And then if they say no, if you know they're super obligated already in their mind to something, like they have a family member in real estate or something like that, I also believe in letting them off the hook a little. Because if they've told you, like, my aunt has been a broker for 18 years and she assumes that I'm going over there, and you're like, okay, well, here's what I'm going to tell you. I think you'd be better off here. And sometimes it's important to think of yourself first. And yet, if for some reason you can't do that, if you don't get what you need in the first few weeks, you're gonna know the door's open, and we'd love to have you. So move quickly if you don't think you're in the right place, because it won't get any better.
And then
And
have
I
your
would
aunt
just
come
say
and
that.
put her in your downline.
Yeah. Well, and exactly. And sometimes they have to experience it, and there's family dynamics and all that. So instead of like trying to like objection handle through that, I'm going to honor that and acknowledge it and be like, here's the deal. If you're not in the right place, you're going to know. You're going to actually know right away. And here's the advice I give you. 8 out of 10 agents fail their first year because they didn't choose a company that really can give them what they need. Don't be a statistic. Move quickly if that's the case. The doors are open here. I'll stay in touch. And I would just kind of do something like that. So just food for thought. You're going to be able to bring a lot of people in after the fact that just are hung up with certain things, which is okay. Maybe they have a friend that's a builder that wants to try something out, or you know how it is. So again, just make sure that you have permission to do one or the other. So, if any of you need help on this, Rich and I are really passionate about it. Tina's on the horn. I see Tina's a MAPS coach as well and an awesome team leader. There's a lot of people here to help you. And yet I'm going to tell you, looking back at my career, I have a lot of things I'm proud of. And one is this, because not only did I sustain a high success ratio in the role and have a lot of fun doing it and made a lot of profit share and have had a lot of impact, but I got to do it with these guys. And these people are people that come to my home and are friends of mine, and we're like family. And that's helped them. And yet that put KW Clearwater back on the map as one of the top offices. So just know that this is such an opportunity, whatever capacity you're thinking of doing it. Go talk to your team leader if you're not the team leader. Come up with a plan to get started in whatever way you can, because you won't regret it. It's like the opportunity of a lifetime. And it's not about perfection. It's just getting better. Just get better systems and get better and better and better. And it's not about perfection. If you just wanted to start by shadowing someone that is comfortable recruiting, just see what it's like, start there. And just know at any time you need help, there's a million people around you that are here to help you. You're never alone. And what a great opportunity. I was like surprised when I looked at my lifetime profit share. I'm like, oh, that's more than I realized. And yet now I'm like, oh boy, I got to get back into some of these systems I had put in place passively for myself to continue to keep growing that, because this next 2 years, there's going to be so much craziness and so much movement. And guess who makes it? The big guys, especially the ones that are profitable and the ones that don't carry a lot of debt. And who is that? That's Keller Williams. So we are safe harbor to everyone. Think of it that way. Okay, well, I honor your time. Is there anyone that has any questions or anything they'd like to ask? Or do you guys feel like you got something good out of this? Can I hear one or two things?
I loved your example of your closes. I think that those were all aggressive enough that you're getting your point across, but it didn't seem like car salesman to me.
Yeah, that's the thing, Lori. The more authentic you are, get rid of like the word scripts. These are conversations. And the more real you are, the better. And you know what? Our fear of objection handling is silly, because we kind of know what they're going to say. And if you really work on this, you can build it into the dialogue. So let's just say you said, I promised I'd interview all these people. I saw all these interviews up. I'd be like, so Lori, based on our conversation today, I know you said you were going to go interview at Berkshire, and you said that you were going to go to Remax, and you were going to go to that other company. After I showed you that model, it kind of shows you how those don't kind of work for you. So I'm curious, do you really want to keep those appointments and have to reject them, or do you want to get started now?
I've offered to cancel the appointment for them.
I like it. I like your style, girl. No, but you know what I'm saying is there's ways to build it into the conversation, right? So if you know what they're gonna say, just bring it up. Be like, I know you said you're gonna interview all these people, you even took the time to set all these appointments up, but will it be easier to say no to them? Or if we just cancel them? Let's get started,
Mhm. Yep.
right? Like, wouldn't it be insane to join a company you know that inevitably you're gonna outgrow? Really? How horrible to have to move.
Right.
Break up with them, right? Okay, I hope you got something good out of this. We'll send you the recording, share it with
Like
anyone you
Sam
want.
Hunt song.
And I hope you guys have a killer day. Talk to you soon.
Thanks,
guys.
Jessica. Great job.
Thanks, Jessica.